Amelia Bedelia Bakes Off. Story by Herman Parrish. Pictures by Lynn Sweat. On her day off, Amelia Bedelia stopped by to visit Mr. and Miss Rogers. "Morning, everybody," said Amelia Bedelia. "Shh!" "Sorry," said Amelia Bedelia quietly. "Don't mind him," said Miss Rogers. "He's watching his favorite show. What's cooking?" "I give up," said Amelia Bedelia. "What are you cooking?" "Nothing," said Miss Rogers. "That is the name of the program." Mr. Rogers was getting annoyed. "Please be quiet, for Pete's sake." "Who is Pete?" Amelia Bedelia whispered. Miss Rogers smiled and said, "His name is Chef du Jour. He shows people how to make gourmet meals and fancy desserts." Mr. Rogers turned up the volume. "Don't forget," Chef du Jour was saying, "I'll pick the winner of my big bake-off contest. The best baker will get $1,000. The audience applauded." Mr. Rogers clapped his hands too. "Wow," he said, $1,000. That's a lot of dough." "Not really," said Amelia Bedelia. $1,000 is a lot of deer, but there is no dough at all." "Amelia Bedelia," said Miss Rogers, "you ought to enter that contest. You make the best lemon meringue pie." "She's right," said Mr. Rogers. "A smart cookie would give it a—" "Thanks anyway," said Amelia Bedelia. "By tonight I will be all baked out. Cousin Alkaloo and I are running Grace's cookie jar all day today." "You two run a bakery?" said Miss Rogers. "That sounds like a half-baked idea." "No, it isn't," said Amelia Bedelia. "This idea is completely baked. Grace had to go out of town and she..." "You'll do fine," said Miss Rogers. "Call us if you need help." "Will do," said Amelia Bedelia. On her way to the bakery, Amelia Bedelia thought about smart cookies. Did they taste better? By the time she arrived, Cousin Alkaloo was unlocking the door. "Hi, Cousin Alkaloo," said Amelia Bedelia. "Hey there," he said. "You look puzzled." "I was wondering," said Amelia Bedelia, "can a cookie be smart?" Cousin Alkaloo shrugged his shoulders. "A cookie can be rich," he said. "I've heard that too," she said. "Is that what a fortune cookie is?" Cousin Alkaloo shrugged again and said, "Maybe so. We'd better get..." They went inside and got ready to do some serious baking. They found a big stack of recipes along with a note from Grace. "This will be easy," said Amelia Bedelia. "Grace will tell us exactly what to do." They read her. "Start every recipe from scratch. Grace." Amelia Bedelia scratched Cousin Alkaloo's back. Scratch, scratch. Then Cousin Alkaloo scratched her back. Scratch, scratch. "That felt good," said Amelia Bedelia. "Now I feel like baking." "What first?" Cousin Alkaloo read from the note aloud. "Bake a batch of chocolate chip cookies, but cut the recipe in half." "That's easy," said Amelia Bedelia. Cousin Alkaloo shook his head. "You know," said Amelia Bedelia, "I guess we ought to cut all of the chocolate chip cookies in half too." "What?" said Cousin Alkaloo. "That'll take forever." I know," said Amelia Bedelia, "but we'd better follow Grace's instructions or the cookies may not turn out so tasty." She began to cut each chip in half. Bits of chocolate flew everywhere. "This is so silly," said Cousin Alkaloo. "These are not very smart cookies." "Not smart is right," said Amelia Bedelia. "These are definitely dumb cookies." Amelia Bedelia looked at Grace's recipes. "Gosh," she said, "this is unbelievable. Grace wants us to bake 12-pound cakes." "Are you sure?" said Cousin Alkaloo. 12 pounds is a mighty heavy cake. How many 12-pound cakes does Grace want us to bake?" "She didn't say," said Amelia Bedelia. "Her recipe is for just 1-pound cake. One 12-pound cake should be plenty." Cousin Alkaloo scratched. He said. "If we bake 12 1-pound cakes, then stack them on top of one another." "That's it," said Amelia Bedelia. "That adds up to a 12-pound cake. Cousin Alkaloo, you're a genius." Amelia Bedelia found 12 pans. She mixed up a huge bowl of batter. It was enough for 13 cakes. She found another pan and crammed all 13 cakes into the oven to bake. "You know," said Cousin Alkaloo, "a baker's dozen is actually 13. "See there," said Amelia Bedelia. "You can count better than a baker." Cousin Alkaloo finished cutting all of the chocolate chips in half. Then he read the other half of the recipe. "Please bring me the salt," he said. "Here you go," said Amelia Bedelia. She brought him a huge box of salt. "That is too much," said Cousin Alkaloo. "I just need a pinch." Amelia Bedelia reached out and ouch! "Ouch!" hollered Cousin Alkaloo. "What did you pinch me for?" "For the recipe," said Amelia Bedelia. "I gave you a pinch like you asked." Cousin Alkaloo rubbed his arm. "I'm so sorry," said Amelia Bedelia. "I didn't mean to hurt you. Now you've got a chip on your shoulder." "No, I don't," said Cousin Alkaloo. "I'd never hold a grudge against you." "Hold still," said Amelia Bedelia. She reached out and plucked a chocolate chip off his shoulder. Then she said, "Open wide." She tossed the chip into his mouth. "Yum," said Cousin Alkaloo. "Thanks." He finished mixing the dough and put a batch of cookies into the second oven. Amelia Bedelia got 3 cakes out of the refrigerator. "What are those?" asked Cousin Alkaloo. "Grace calls them cheesecakes," said Amelia Bedelia. "We're supposed to put cherries on top." "Cherries with cheese?" said Cousin Alkaloo. "Sounds like a yucky combination to me." "Me too," said Amelia Bedelia. "I bet if these cakes looked cheesier, they wouldn't need any cherries." They cut holes to make a Swiss cheese cake, drizzled food coloring to paint a blue cheese, and planted flags to create an American cheesecake. Beep, beep, beep. Just then, the oven timer went off. Amelia Bedelia and Cousin Alkaloo took out the pound cakes and put them on the racks to cool. Then they took the cookies out of the oven and had to take a tea break. "You know what?" said Amelia Bedelia. "They taste better with the chips cut in half. These are smart cookies after all." "It was worth the work," said Cousin Alkaloo. "Now, let's build that 12." Amelia Bedelia handed him cake after cake. Cousin Alkaloo carefully stacked each one higher and higher. "Is it my imagination?" said Amelia Bedelia, "or are the cakes starting to lean?" "I can't tell," said Cousin Alkaloo. "Hand me that last cake, please." As soon as he put it on top, it slid off and crashed to the table. "Uh-oh," said Cousin Alkaloo. "This pound cake got pounded." "No problem," said Amelia Bedelia. "Our baker's dozen gave us a spare cake. Bakers must know that accidents happen." "Lucky for us," said Cousin Alkaloo. Amelia Bedelia checked the recipes. "Hold on," she said. "This is even luckier. Grace wants us to make a crumb cake. Let's just press these crumbs." The two of them pushed and prodded until the crumbs turned into a cake. "Presto! Crumb cake," said Amelia Bedelia. "Yes, sirree," said Cousin Alkaloo. "That is one crummy." Ring, ring, ring. Uh-oh, said Amelia Bedelia. Did we leave something in the oven? That's the phone, said Cousin Alka. Hello, said Amelia Bedelia. This is Grace's cookie jar. May I help you? Hi, it's Grace, said Grace. How are things going? Almost done, said Amelia Bedelia. We've got one last cake to go, but I think I'll make it at home. Good thinking, said Grace. You must be exhausted. I am, said Amelia Bedelia. I'll bring it in tomorrow. I've got an idea, said Grace. I'll be at the big bake-off. Just meet me there, okay? Okay, said Amelia Bedelia. Thank you. Bye-bye, said Cousin Alkaloo began to clean up. I'll handle this mess, he said. You go home and bake that cake, then get some sleep. Thank you, said Amelia Bedelia. I can barely keep my eyes. By the time she got home, Amelia Bedelia was yawning. But she had one last cake in her. It was an old family recipe that her grandmother had taught her. There were just 9 ingredients. She mixed them up right in the pan, then put the pan in the oven. After the cake had baked and cooled, she cut 2 tiny pieces off of one end and set them right on top. Then she frosted and decorated her cake from top. The next day, Amelia Bedelia overslept. She was tired from all that baking. She picked up her cake and dashed off to the bakery. Incredible cakes filled the hall. Television cameras were everywhere. Reporters interviewed the bakers. The excitement was building. Amelia Bedelia looked around. She did not see Grace anywhere. Amelia Bedelia put her cake down on a table and went to search for her. At that moment, Chef du Jour strolled in Amelia Bedelia's direction. He looked grumpy, just like on TV. When he got to Amelia Bedelia's cake, Chef du Jour stopped in his tracks. What is this? Asked Chef du Jour. Is this someone's idea of a joke? It's my idea, said Amelia Bedelia, and it is no joke. Then what is it? Demanded the chef. It started out as a sheet cake, said Amelia Bedelia, but I was so tired when I baked it, I went ahead and made the whole bed. A smile came over the chef's face. It's so easy to make, said Amelia Bedelia, and it's pretty tasty. Really? Said the chef. You can actually eat it? Here, said Amelia Bedelia, bite into a pillow. The chef took a bite. He closed his eyes, and his smile got even bigger. Your cake is simple, he said, yet the flavor is complex. It's funny, but seriously. Glad you like it, said Amelia Bedelia. Like it, said Chef du Jour. I love it. It's fantastic. Your cake takes the cake. And first. There was a huge cheer. Amelia Bedelia smiled and waved to everyone at home, especially the 2 she knew were watching. Mr. and Miss Rogers were speechless. Then they jumped for joy. See there, said Miss Rogers. Amelia Bedelia is a smart cookie. She sure is, said Mr. Rogers. And with $1,000, she's a fortune cookie too.